legends where magic meets the heart. Commander's Pod, where the stories unfold, with heroes and villains new and old. Duncan, Jef, and Sloan got the word. In the world of EDH we play.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Commander's Pod. Once again, I am your pod father, Duncan.
I'm Sloan.
And I'm Jeff.
And today we're going to talk about overrated cards in Commander. I think a lot of these will be controversial because they're pretty highly thought of, but I also think a lot of them, you could probably cut them and put something better in there.
Some hot takes coming your way.
Yeah, I think for sure. We're also going to have a card of the day. We're going to have some pro tips for you, and Jeff will tell us what's aggravating him today. So, but before all that, let me get into just a couple things about some games I had over the weekend. First of all, I was playing against somebody who, as we've discussed in previous episodes, is somebody who doesn't want to play lower power, right? They want to play higher power. Mm-hmm. And
Okay.
I've gotten used to that. That's fine. The aggravation came in when anything didn't go their way, they would scoop.
Is this the same person who scooped when I played?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So anything
Conversation needs to be had.
Well,
there.
and I did a little bit, so
Okay.
hopefully it'll help. But it just really made for some unfun games because we were playing in a three-man pod, which made it even worse because if one person scoops, it's an entirely different game.
Oh, yeah.
1v1 commander is not good commander.
Yeah.
Late game, it can be great.
Yeah,
You know what
end
I
game
mean?
it's fine, but yeah, if your
if decks aren't designed for it, it's hard.
Yeah.
well, most commander decks, unless they're specifically building 1v1, are not designed to be 1v1 on turn 2.
Right. But some of them can do it.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
But like if
Mine
you
do okay.
if
1v1.
you exile their graveyard, well, I scoop. If you
Steal something of theirs.
Yep,
Oh,
steal
excuse-
something there. So I scoop. I needed that. Things like that. So that was unsatisfying.
How many times did it happen?
3?
Oh my
5.
gosh.
Yeah. So I did say something, but the other thing is I did get a little bit of revenge because there was a game where I still messed with them, but I messed with them with the other player. I was playing my Illuge deck, and I just kept bouncing everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, everybody loves that deck. Not really. But
I
yeah,
don't mind it.
I just kept bouncing it. And so finally, he's like, okay, I see the writing on the wall. You've got this pretty well under control. I'm like, yeah. So then they both scooped. That was fine. But yeah, I ended up calling the night early because I just didn't want to deal with Scoopzilla
And you
anymore.
started late, I feel like, too.
Yeah, I didn't start till later because I had family stuff.
Yeah, so that's why I didn't go, because I'm not going to drive all the way down there for just a short night. I
Right.
do need to get there on a Saturday again. That was a lot of fun. We
Yeah,
played
there's a
from
lot
like
more people on a Saturday night.
3 till... I'm not staying till 2 in the morning again, though. That was terrible.
All right, the rest of us will stay there.
I was too tired. I didn't even go to church the next day.
I would even say, though, that I didn't play on Saturday, and I think that was a lot of why. I
'Cause
didn't
you
want to
were-
be in that situation again. So I
Yeah.
was just like, meh, because I wasn't going to get there till later again. And I was like, you know what? Nah.
I get that way if I'm there and people get really salty.
Yeah,
Then I'm like, I don't really need the emotions of that again. I'll just stay home.
right. That makes sense. But anyway, so those were my games from I just think it's kind of funny. Just off the top of my head when I was making the notes for this, I put the notes as Scoopzilla and Bounce House.
Yeah,
I just like those names. But
those
anyway,
are good names.
Aggro Jef, what is aggravating you today?
Well, I think fathers out there might connect with this a little bit, but when our children are young, we don't mind playing games with them and losing to the point where sometimes we may even let them win, although we don't really do that in my house. But I can see some families doing that. But my children are older now. They're 12 and 13, and they're quite intelligent. And we played Magic, and my son Jaden just destroyed me. And my other son. I mean, it wasn't even close. I will tell you that the new game rules came into play because he had
They're guidelines, not really.
Yeah,
rules.
they're not rules.
They're not hard
They're
and fast.
the
rules. They're
brackets
guidelines.
came into play because he had a 4, and it was Uros, so it was landfall with counters, Cyclonic Rift. So he zero cost countered us twice and Cyclonic Rifted us, and he played Rhystic Study, I think. So he just like all kinds of game changers, and our decks didn't really have a lot of game changers in it. I think Paxton played the One Ring. That was the only game
Right.
changer he brought, which was good, but it was just helping Jaden to kill him quicker. And you want to be like really happy your kids won. I really wanted to beat them. I really did not like losing.
Well, you're always
and
like that,
afterwards,
though.
I was like, well, yeah, but normally I don't get really salty. I just want to win more. But I was like, your deck wasn't fair. And then I had to stop myself and be like, what am I? I'm being one of those people. I don't want to be one of those people.
Well, also, who made the deck?
Yeah, I made all the decks.
So it's your fault.
Yeah. But I didn't know.
Who
But
made the kid?
what I'm telling you is that I am a little aggravated that it's still losing is so difficult, even with your kids. Probably dads understand. It's you just want to keep beating them because you want your dad, right? You should
At
beat
the
them.
game.
At anything you do with them, right? Play basketball with them,
I'm
football,
just
whatever.
saying you
just want to
don't
win.
literally want to beat them.
No. No one to beat 12 and 13-year-old children. No. Well,
You didn't- you
there's
weren't
some
that
I've run
upset.
into on the street. I feel like they might need a good beating.
Yeah.
I haven't done it, but I've thought, wow, if someone came out of the woods and beat them,
You thought,
I would
where's their
not
parent to
involve
beat
myself.
them?
Yes. But yeah, and then the brackets are pretty awesome because they did an amazing job. It's very clear that the game changers are indeed game changers.
Right.
Yeah.
I just think there needs to be more of them, and some of the things maybe not as much. But anyway, yeah, that's. I mean, I get that. I can. I haven't really gotten to the point where Connor's beating me a lot.
Yeah.
We only play Magic occasionally. He has so many interests, and with his ADD, it's hard to nail him down. But
Yep. Yes. Also, don't nail him down. That'd be wrong.
yeah, that would be wrong too.
A lot of dad jokes right now.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to card of the day. So the card of the day I picked was Wipe Away. Do either of you guys play Wipe Away?
Well, the bigger question is, did
No.
you bring one for us? Because you're supposed to bring one.
That was nobody's brought me one.
I
before.
did. When I
Yeah,
did
he
mine,
did.
I
Oh,
brought.
he did. That's
All
true.
right.
You
Yeah,
can bring it.
yeah, but not to the show. But anyway, Wipe Away is a blue instant. It's an uncommon. It costs 1 and 2 blue. It has split second, so right there tells you it's a really good card.
Right.
Yeah.
Hard to interact with. And the text says return target permanent to its owner's hand. So it does cost more than like say Unsummon or
Right.
the new one that you pay 1 but you can gift a fish and then you can pick a permanent instead of a creature. But the split second is really, if you want to make sure that the thing is not interacted with and they don't get to keep it,
Right.
that's key.
Yeah. I mean, reading this card, it's, again, just like most of the cards you've chosen for this. First off, it's blue. But then secondly, it's both offensive and defensive,
Right.
which is really key to, I think, a good card is you being able to utilize it in every situation, just not certain situations. So the first thing I thought about this when you see it is, oh, this is uninteractable protection for something.
Right.
So
That's one use.
Right, yeah. Like that's a great use of someone's trying to, like, let's say, for example, because I just brought up, let's say you have your One Ring out and someone's trying to exile it. Great. In response, I'm going to bounce it back to my hand and you can't do anything.
Or if it just has too many counters on
Yeah,
it.
or that's another great example. If it has already 7 counters on it, you want to reset it. Great. Split second, I'm going to put it back in my hand so no one can interact with it. It's going back to my hand. There's nothing anyone can do about it in that instant, right? So I thought that was really cool. But then I also thought about the more offensive side on it, which is this is, again, one of those situations where someone's about to try to maybe combo and end the game. And it's like, okay, great. Before you do that, real quick, no biggie. Split second, though, send that back to your hand.
Yeah.
Like, that's also something that's really cool and a good way to interact with it and make sure that, again, there's no one that can interfere with it because of split second, which specifically, and we did have when we first started playing Magic Commander specifically 12 years ago again, we had issues with understanding split second because of the wording on it. But
Right.
it is, as long as this spell is on the stack, players can't play spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities.
Right.
So the only thing that's faster than this, I believe, is Morph.
Morph, because Morph is not actually an ability.
Right.
And it doesn't technically use the
Which
stack.
Morph does have some counters.
Right. So, this is...
But nobody plays
Yeah, and
Morph.
Morph is so niche. You
I
even
do.
made a... Yeah,
I
you
have
made
an
a
Animar
Morph deck.
Morph
And you're a nobody, so I was right.
Yeah.
Well, you made a Morph deck, and you're like, this Morph deck doesn't work. I need to figure out a different way to make it
I just
better."
played it with Animar, and then it's awesome.
You're right, yeah, crazy.
Unlimited
happened.
free morphs.
But yeah, so it's in my opinion, this is a super cool card that has, again, a lot of applications to it. and could
I-
very easily see this being thrown into a lot of stuff.
I hate every part of this card except for one part, the flavor. And I blink later, all that remained of the tree beast was the breeze of its momentum. Like, that's very
that's a
cool. That's the only
great
thing I like
flavor
about the
text.
card.
How could you hate this card?
It's too expensive. It's overcosted. I don't think it's very good. I don't really care about split second. Like, it's just not. 3 mana is a lot of mana to put something back to their hand, which they're just going to replay. I do agree on the using it on your own stuff sometimes. I think there are decks where this could work if you're a control deck, but like I wouldn't put this in just any deck. It would
Well,
have to be specific
like
to
my
a control
counter,
deck.
my counter to that point is if, for example, let's say they've cast all their spells, they're either low or out of mana, and that is what they need to do in order to try to win the game that turn. Great, I'm going to send that back to your hand. Now you don't have enough mana to recast it. I just ended you from winning the game. Like, it's something even
Yeah,
to that point where,
But there are other cards that can do that.
I mean, not as uninteractable as this is, though.
Yeah, it has split second, and there are times that
So
might make a
most
difference.
things that return a permanent
Yeah,
to its owner's hand cost 2.
right. But I wouldn't play those really either.
I know, but that's my point. You would not play this type of card.
Correct. Yeah.
Right,
That's
so-
why I'm just saying I don't like it. Oh, I love the flavor. I might play this card just for the flavor. That is that not the
flavor for the last
coolest
one
flavor
I picked was
text?
really good.
Yeah.
No, the one I had last time. I'm summarizing because I don't remember the exact words.
Uh-huh.
But the resolution to a big ego is a little failure.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good too. But
Yeah.
this just sounds like
that's
a
good flavor
poem.
text. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's not the exact wording, but that was the gist. But anyway, so that's card of the day. So let's move on to our main topic. We're going to talk about overrated cards in Commander, cards that we personally feel are overplayed. So the first one I had was Faithless Looting.
Interesting.
So Faithless Looting, for those that don't know, it is a sorcery. It costs 1 red, and it says draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. It also has flashback for 2 and a red.
Right.
So we went over when we were doing card draw some red cards that I feel are much better than this. I think the reason it's played a lot is because it's a single mana and the flashback. So if you want to do it
Yeah,
again,
as a cantrip, it's very good. So
Yeah.
in a Spellslinger deck, 1 red is amazing.
it is. That's great. But for 2 red, you can keep more cards and draw more cards.
It's also amazing in like any deck where you want stuff in the yard, like in the graveyard. So like
So yes, in that
my
specific
artifact
use-
deck,
Yeah.
I want this because I'm putting stuff in my graveyard.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
If I were playing, Hashaton's the wrong colors, but if I were playing Hashaton, I cared
Yeah,
about
this
discard.
would be great.
Yeah. But when you aren't playing something that cares about discard or cares about things in your graveyard, it's not very good compared to the other
Right.
cards that
It's
are similar.
people need to use it in the right place.
Right.
Yeah.
You can get instants for 2 mana that do the same thing but better. You get to discard 1 card and keep 2, something like that.
Yeah, that is interesting. I didn't really ever pay attention
and you
to their
actually
sorcery.
do the discard first rather than doing it after you draw.
Right.
So that's the other thing too. And the other downside about this is you're actually losing a card. You're
Right,
going
that's what I'm
1.
saying.
Yeah, you're going -1 because Faithless Looting plus, and then you draw 2, but then you have to discard 2. So you're
Yeah.
actually minus
Yeah,
a card.
it's
at
just
the end of it.
designed to do Spellslinger or really get things in your graveyard.
Right. But it's
honestly.
played a lot. Like
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of decks that aren't discard and aren't graveyards. play
Yeah,
it.
I don't get that.
It's in almost
I
every
don't know why you would
pre-con.
do that.
Yeah, and
It's
I
just
think
not
the
good.
main reason why is because actual, besides CMC it being cheap, I think actual cost of it is cheap too. I think it's like what, a sub 20-cent
Yeah.
card or
Oh,
something.
by the way,
40
my card of the
49
day, I
cents.
didn't talk about the cost. 22 cents is what my card of the
Yeah,
day costs.
49 cents for the
Yeah.
Faithless.
So
Suiting.
see,
Yeah,
my card,
so-
which is actually good, is better than this card.
This card is good, just in the right setting. I think what your point is, people are using it outside
Yeah.
of its correct function.
Well, I think all of the cards I'm going to mention, in the right setting, they're great.
This
Right.
is not a card draw.
And I'm not
By
saying
the way.
necessarily, like this one I just don't think is a good card, really, unless those specific settings.
Yeah, this is too neat.
My others I have, they're good cards, but only for,
Very specific.
you have to look at them the right way.
Right.
Jeff, you want to do one of yours?
Sure. So let me go to my list here. I'm going to start with a really, really hot take. And I'm going to say Mystic Remora.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm going to argue this one.
Yep. So the reason why I'm going to say this is you're paying 1 blue, right? And the goal is you really kind of want to draw at least 1 card. If you draw 2 or 3 cards, you really are getting a pretty good value. The problem with Mystic Remora is that when I build my decks, I really try to build in like that I control what's going to happen. So for me, I don't love chaos stuff, which I'll talk about another card I have on my list later that has to do with that. But because I don't know what's going to happen with this very many times you played on turn 1 and no one has a soul ring. Turn 2, no one happens to be playing a signet. Doesn't always happen, but you can end up paying 1 mana and getting nothing. It does happen.
It does
and there are
happen.
many times you pay 1 mana and only get 1 card or maybe 2 cards. And in that case, yeah, there's an upside, right? Because you got 2 cards. It's not that much better than some other card draws near that mana
But
cost.
you're forgetting-
They guarantee the draw.
You're forgetting a point that I think if I was saying that card, you would point out.
What?
The reason you're not getting that draw is they're holding their card back because they don't want to give you a card.
Sometimes.
Because you can't afford 4.
Sometimes.
Nobody can afford 4 when they want to get out of Soul Ring.
Yeah, but you have to admit there are times where you play games and someone's like Elvish Mystic, They're just happen to be playing creatures
Yeah.
instead of artifacts.
Oh, they're
and
playing
then you're-
something else for sure, but
Yeah.
that means they're not ramping.
Well,
They're
no, you
not
can
playing
ramp
the-
without.
I know, but I mean the artifact ramp.
Yeah.
They're not doing the things
Well, yeah,
they
they're not
normally
doing
would
any
have
of the
done.
ramps. They're not doing any of the instants or
Right.
sorcerer.
They're not doing
any of
non.
those
They're doing non. They can't do non-creature ramps. You can
Without
ramp with
suffering.
creatures.
Right, you could do mana dorks.
Yes.
But
Correct.
if you're not playing a deck that has mana dorks, you're giving up, and I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
They give up their ramp.
If they
to
give up their
prevent you from
turn,
gaining
that's
card
more
advantage.
powerful than you drawing a card. I think.
Exactly.
So it can work. I just want people to be careful that when you're building your deck, understand your meta. Because there are metas where this could not be all that great, and it's not a guarantee. If you're playing with a lot of blue players, so like I do, it tends to be okay because you're almost guaranteedly going to play a signet.
Right.
Yeah. But not always. Not
Right.
always.
Or a counterspell or a
and this
Swords
is
to Plowshares, anything they play that isn't.
and this is a $9 card that's played in 18% of the decks it can go into.
Yeah.
I just think people are putting it in basically every blue
Well,
deck.
the other thing that
And I don't think you should do that.
Here's the thing I would say: when you play this card,
Yeah.
don't be like, okay, I played it, I got nothing. I pay 1 for the upkeep, I get nothing. I pay 2 for the upkeep, I get nothing. I've seen people pump 3 and 4 mana into it because at this point they're invested in it.
Yeah.
You have to know when to just let it go.
Yeah. Know when to hold them, know when to fold
Yeah.
them.
If you're drawing a ton of cards, keep paying. If you are whiffing
Yeah.
and you have other stuff you could be doing, then you're now just hurting yourself.
Yes. Significantly because
Yeah.
it gets worse and worse. So
So
that's
just
my first
play it
hot
smart.
take.
I do not think it is. I don't think it's something you shouldn't play. I think you need to play it smart and in the right situations. I don't play it turn 1 even when I have it most times
You wait
because
till
the
2.
likelihood of a Soul Ring on turn 1 is low.
Right. So again, this is just I think it's overrated. I don't think it's bad.
Right.
I just think people think it's better than it is.
I think 18% is okay, but I do think people play it weird
Yeah.
and expect weird things from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll hit the next one on the list. So
Okay.
Pact of Negation you have on here.
Yep.
Yeah, this one, I think the draw to it is it's 0.
Yeah.
CMC.
Yep.
The drawback, which is why I think it's overrated, is the upkeep cost of 5, if I remember correctly, 3 blue.
Yeah.
There's very rarely a time where not having 5 mana on your turn doesn't change what you could or could have done.
It's a lot of mana.
That is a lot of
I
mana.
mean,
lot.
There are some 5 mana counter spells that actually do some pretty cool things.
Right.
Spell Swindle is 5 mana, and you get treasures equal to the converted mana cost of the spell you
Right, so
counter.
you actually could technically get back that mana immediately.
Right,
I just don't know if it's as overrated as you guys think. It's only in 7% of decks that could have it.
because of its cost.
It's $18.
Yeah, you just said
Yeah.
about how a $9 card.
Yeah, but
and
it was in
18%.
18% of
Yeah,
decks.
but that's half the cost.
Yeah, it is
I think the
expensive.
cost is a
Yeah, I mean, I would say
Qualifier.
that this is overrated, and the price shows it. Like, this should not be a $19 counterspell. This is not worth $19. This,
I
in
don't
my
know.
opinion, this is a lot worse. Like Duncan just pointed out, there's other 5 CMC counters that you can do that do a lot more than what this does.
Well, but you have to remember so you get to play out your full turn setup, right? It just depends on how you play. If you're like me and you tend to play like creature decks, it can be really powerful because I've set up if I get back to my turn, I don't need any mana. You're all dead, type of deal, right?
right.
So in those cases, it can be good. But if you're playing it instead of like some of the 1 mana ones that I don't know, like Swan Song's pretty good. This does say counter any spell though, which is pretty powerful.
Right, but
Yeah.
but for
Because some of
5
those zeros
CMC
don't do that.
For 5 CMC, almost all the zeros counter target spell.
Right. It's costing you 5 mana or the game.
Yeah, I mean it's
Whatever
it's
you're
very
countering
costly.
better be huge.
Yeah, it better be game
If you're
ending.
countering it to prevent, if you're using that to counter somebody's commander, that's not real good unless their commander is about to win them the game.
Right.
Yeah, and
So-
even to your point, so let's say you had this, right? And let's use your dragon deck because I know it's a 5-color deck, right? So let's say you use this and you're like, well, it gets back to my turn. I have a bunch of creatures out. I'm gonna, just basically kill everybody or whatever. It's like, okay, great. I'm gonna fog for 1 mana, and you don't have any mana left to do anything because you just spent 5 on it for a counter.
Well, but the
last night.
same argument could be made if I
Right.
attack you with all my creatures and you fog, and I spent all my mana, but I have a 0 mana spell right now, and I can stop your fog and kill you. Who cares what happens on the next turn? I already won.
Right.
But again, I'm using your point that you just said about using on someone else's turn and spending your 5 mana on your upkeep. I get what you're saying, but again, in my opinion, this is not a $19 card.
Fierce Guardianship does not get creatures, just so you guys know.
Sure.
but it doesn't cost you 5 mana.
No, it costs you 0 pretty
It
much
costs you
all the time.
or 3 at most.
Right.
And Pact
Right.
of Negation.
So 2 less than this.
Here's why I picked this card and why I say it's overrated. It may not be in a ton of decks on EDH Rec, right? But new players see it played once and they're, oh, that card's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that card. When I first started playing EDH, I was like, I want more of these. I want to buy, I bought a few.
Well, there was also less 0 cost.
Do you know how many decks I have them in now?
How many?
0.
I'll take
Out
your
of my
pact.
80 or 100.
I'll take your pact.
You've already taken a bunch of
Oh,
cards.
okay.
Rick.
Take more.
But I mean,
I still like pact of
the
negation.
other drawback to this too is if for some reason you can't pay it on your upkeep, you lose the game.
Right.
Yes.
That's
Now, they
another
did take
drawback.
out, you can't forget.
Which
to
I
play.
have got to do that to someone
Yes,
once, which was
you did it
amazing.
to David.
Yeah.
So right there. And here's the thing. For a card to be truly good in your deck,
Mm-hmm.
it should be good at the beginning of the game, the middle of the game, and the end of the game. And this one does not fall under that.
It does not
qualification.
work good in the beginning of the game. True.
Not at all.
Right. And well,
But
so that's another point.
I don't know how
Even
much-
the middle of the game. The middle of the game, that's all your mana.
Yeah, and I get it because you're a control player more, so you are wanting to control stuff from the very beginning. Me, typically, what am I doing? I'm protecting my board state
Right.
almost exclusively.
Oh, if you
And
use
in
this
this
to
case-
protect your board state, you better be able to win on your turn.
Yeah, that's the idea.
But so that's a one-use card.
Yeah.
That's not good in your deck.
Well,
how many
why?
other one-use cards do you have besides win cons?
Yeah, but that's it. It's
But
just a
that's not even a
protection.
guar-
It's
just-
like Teferi's protection for me many times because I use it to stop a board wipe. Now, granted, they could board wipe again, and then I'm just out
If
of luck.
Teferi's protection costs you 5 mana, would you play it?
If
No.
it cost me 0 on the turn and then 5 mana, would I play it? Heck yeah. Please make one of those. I'll also play that. Because the point is, I have no mana right now. I want to spend my whole turn and then have this as backup. Many times I don't use it. It goes around the whole table, and then I just spend all my. I know every turn I can spend all my mana, and if something terrible happens, I have this get out of jail free card.
But here's the other reason why you like it more than Sloan and I.
Yeah.
You play almost all creature decks.
Yes.
So, yeah, of course. Then you have all your creatures. You're going to do your creature things.
Right. If I'm hunting
Sloan
for
and
a
I,
combo, it's less important.
We have decks that have creatures, but we don't play creature decks. But even in my zombie deck, which is 100% a creature deck, I would not play this card.
I just put it in my zombie deck.
I don't think it's that good. I don't think it's worth the price tag it's at. I don't think it's should. I don't even think it should be in 7% of decks.
I think people
I-
agree with you because it is only in 7.
I think the problem is that it has too much qualifications for it to be good.
And I would say those 7% are probably CEDH.
Yeah, it's probably very good in CEDH.
Yep.
Right, because again, that goes back
Which
to
is
the
probably
mentality
why
of
it's
I'm just
19.
going to win the game on my turn. I need as
Yeah.
many things to protect.
Which is
my
probably
win.
why it's $19. Yeah.
So,
But, all right, Jeff, what's another one of yours?
So I talked about not being able to control the outcome of something. That's very important to me. I don't like when it's like, this could work great, but it might not work at all. Chaos Warp. Oh my gosh. And I put Chaos Warp in my red decks because it's iconic. You got to play it. But how many times have I been bit by that card where I've Chaos Warped something and the thing that comes out is way more powerful than the thing I Chaos Warped? And I'm like, good grief.
Or the same thing.
Here's the thing.
Or
Yeah,
the same thing. Yeah.
The same thing is, I love when that happens. I don't care if I did it or not.
It's
like
funny. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like finding a 4-leaf clover. It's like, look at that. It did the thing.
Yeah.
But here's the problem. What better card in red would you play?
Well, that's the thing is
Yes, that is the thing.
you have to go to damage early, and then that's how do you deal with enchantments and other stuff. So if you're just red, that's where it's good, just plain red.
Well, no, even if you're red and another color that's not very good at removal.
But that's the problem. Like
all
every
of
other
them aren't
color.
good.
Yeah, all the other colors are a lot better than
So
red
let me
at
put
it.
out this: blue is good at putting it back in your hand, not really good at.
Yeah,
it's
but
got a
I'd play
few
that
cards.
over this.
So here we
you
go.
play wipe away over that.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Well, no, wait. Wipe away is the same cost.
3. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you could do better.
Well, we're saying for the same.
I just
CMC,
counter. I just play more counters. That's how I deal with it
Yeah,
in blue.
in blue. Okay, I
Yeah.
get it. But I do agree. How many percentage was it? Did you have that?
Yeah, I do have that. It's 32% of the decks that can run
it
it.
probably should not be in 32% of the decks.
It just.
I mean,
it's
unless
too
they're mono red.
inconsistent.
The other colors should help you remove things better.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
though, in a mono red deck, yeah, you gotta have that.
Yeah, if you're running a mono red deck, it's really the only
Here's
option
the other
for
thing
you.
too, though. It gets around indestructible
Yeah.
real nicely.
Yeah, because it's not destroying anything.
No.
I will say too, in regards to what it does and how it does it, it's very much a red card, right? It's very much.
Yeah.
If red's going to get something off the board without destroying it, this is how red's going to do it.
But I also think
No.
you do have a slight aversion to chaos, and
Correct.
that's part of your.
Yeah.
I play more things like this instead of less. Zoyawa's Justice, is 1 in a red, and it does Discover instead, which is a much better effect for the person that's getting it.
It is.
And
yes.
but it can be used on your stuff too. I play that as well, so I'm kind of doubling down on those effects. Whereas you're like, I don't like them at all. I think Gamble is far worse than that card.
Gamble.
but I think most
Gamble is
people
one that was
realize
on my list. It's right here.
Man.
Gamble's
That's
on your list.
in 10% of decks,
Wow.
and it's almost $8.
Again,
Which I
CEDH.
don't
Let's
understand.
pretend CEDH is that 7% we were talking about.
Yeah.
It means 3% are still playing that too much. Gamble is a horrible card.
It's terrible. Yeah, it
It's
always
just
bites
awful.
you. It never
but
works.
again, for if red's going to go be a tutor, that's how
No,
red's
yeah,
going to
that's
be a
Red's
tutor.
tutor.
That
But
is-
you know how I
Yeah,
tutor? in
that
Red?
is how red's
You know
gonna
how
be.
I tutor? in Red?
You use blue?
No, I don't. I don't tutor. in
I
Red.
don't
Yeah.
tutor. You just,
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think the only red deck I have is Neheb, and it's like, I don't care what you're doing. I don't care what you're doing. But on my turn, you're all taking 30 damage.
I don't even want to do
Like-
it in the deck where I'm just like, I just want to get Storm. Like, I just want to get my Storm count up.
Yeah.
Because you might get rid of the thing that you wanted to use at the end
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah, 100%.
No, it's a bad card.
It is a bad card.
Gamble is awful. Do not play it. If your friends are playing it, please help them.
No, don't. Just win more. Just be like, that's a great
Or
card.
just be really good at memorizing what card they put in their hand that you get to draw out.
Yeah.
Like just like follow it like the 3-card Monty.
Oh,
on the
yeah,
street,
yeah.
And follow it and be like, that's the one, and pull it out. Because there's nothing
Oh yeah,
that says
if
you
you're good at like
Yeah.
legit 3-card money, that
Yeah.
like where they rip you off. But like yeah, do it. Be like, that's the one. Another one I had is Mana Vault.
Yeah, this is gonna be controversial.
So this one's gonna be controversial. Here's my thing about Mana Vault. People say, look at this. For 1 mana, I get 3 mana and I can keep using this. Most of the time I see people put it out, they use it once and they're done. And if you know that's what you're gonna do, then it's a fine card. But if
Right.
you're like, I'm gonna keep using this, on your upkeep you have to pay 4 to untap this.
Yeah.
Most turns, similar to the Pact Negation argument, most turns you have better stuff to do with that 4 mana.
Right.
So if you play this like Dark Ritual and you're like, I'm trading 1 for 3 one time,
Yes.
it's a good card. But if you're like, I'm going to keep using
Well,
it, you're
and it's a
probably
good
not.
card if you can untap it for free.
Right. If you could untap it for
Well,
free, sure.
but here's the other thing though. It very specifically says you can only pay to untap it on your upkeep.
yeah, that's it.
So it's not like what's the other one
Basalt Monolith.
that you can untap as long as you can pay into it. It's not like that one. You can only untap this on your upkeep.
No, I don't think that's what it means.
It's
It is,
exactly.
it is
At the
what-
beginning of upkeep, you may pay 4 if you do untap Mana Vault.
Right.
If you have a card that says untap Mana
Oh yeah,
Vault,
yeah.
you can do it.
No, but he's saying to pay the cost.
to
Yeah,
pay the cost. To
But I'm
untap it,
saying
can
you wouldn't
only
want to do
it
that.
on
You
the
want to use
upkeep.
the only way you play this is other cards. and
Again,
untap
though,
it.
that's a specific situation.
Yes.
This is a situational card like some of the others we talked about. Depending on the deck you're playing, you may not want to play this card even if you... I mean, it's an expensive card and it's on the Game Changers.
$65 and it's 6% of decks that can play it. So I think people actually do hear you. I don't think it's...
But again, I
that may
think
be.
it's only in 6% because of the price tag
cost.
on it.
But
If
there
it
are
was-
other... like Cyclonic Rift is expensive and it's in way more than 6% of decks, I would gather. We could look up Cyclonic
I mean,
Rift.
I'm not sure because again, that's a $70 card. I don't think.
And also, I think Ristic Study at this point is also very expensive.
Well, Ristic Study came down though in price
It's
Well,
gone
well,
up and down. But
yeah.
anyway, I
Yeah.
just
because they
feel like...
reprinted a lot.
Cyclonic
feel
Rift
like-
is 27% of decks.
I don't-
And it's $45.
This is another one that, for many people, when they start building, when they're building the higher power decks, they're like, "This thing's awesome. I'm gonna, if you know, especially if proxies are allowed, I'm gonna put this in every deck, right?"
Yes.
No, don't put it in every deck. Know
Yeah.
that it's a 1 for 3, and that's probably all you're ever.
I
gonna
would
do.
I would say if you're gonna play 1 or 2 color decks, maybe it's better. If you're playing 3, 4, 5 color decks, it's probably just not very good.
Right. I mean, I
Um,
played this when I played Villas, the one that when you take damage you get
Okay. yeah.
cards, because I'm like, great, every upkeep that's a card. You know, one
Yeah, 'cause
damage,
you
one card.
intentionally leave
That's worth it. Yeah.
In my Rowan Scion of War, where for the amount of damage you've taken on your turn, you can reduce your red and black spells by that amount of colorless
Oh, very
mana.
good. Yes.
Yeah, it's a great card. Great card in those decks.
It's a great card when you use it to do things it's not designed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
crazy.
if you can untap it the way it's not designed to untap.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, treat it like you would Dark Ritual and only put it in decks where you're going to use it.
Yeah, but it's not even as good as Dark Ritual because at least that gives you black. This
Yeah,
just gives
yeah,
you
it's
color.
colorless.
Colorless, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now-
it's very niche, very specific card again, and clearly it's only in 6% decks. But again, with that being said, I think some of that is due to the price tag. You said it was $60.
Yeah, and Ristic Study is like 27% of
And
decks
at one
too, and
point,
it's
though, it was more.
$50.
Mana Vault's been reprinted.
Probably.
Right.
And
It was
and
over
I will
100.
also say if you're in a 1 or 2 color deck, the best way to play this is you play it at 1. You don't use the mana right away. Wait till next turn when you get the full value of the 3 mana and then use it.
Right.
That's jumping you ahead 3 turns.
Right.
So it does have value if you play it the right way.
Right. Now, I don't know what card you're about to name,
Okay.
but I'm looking over there. That thing costs a ton of mana. I see a ton of pips on that.
Yeah. This is Eerie Ultimatum. 2 white, 3 black, 2 green. Sorcery. It's not even an instant. Return any number of permanent cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. Obviously, this could have some uses in a graveyard deck. This could be very powerful. But it's $8 and it's in 12% of decks that can play it. 12%.
That's a lot.
And it's 2 white, 3 black, and 2 green.
That's a lot
That's
of colored pips.
That's very hard to do those colored pips. And I played this for a while, and I could never get the right color mana to do this because basically what you're doing is if you have the exact right mana, amazing, that'll never happen. So you almost need more mana than this costs to have the right colors. And when you have more mana, you want to play other things. If you have 10 mana, you want to play a 7 and a 3. But you won't have the right colors for the 3
Yeah.
because all your colors are going into this thing. So maybe if you're playing like Commander Sphere or something, like you're playing a lot of things that can filter,
Yeah.
maybe it'll work. But I just think in general, this is not a good card for 7 mana. That's
Is that
wicked
in
hard to cast.
precons?
I don't at $8. I don't know. I mean, it's
I
not a
mean-
cheap card.
I mean, no, but they put $8 cards in precons. It's some-
And also, it could have been in a precon before it was $8.
Yeah, it could have. been.
Dockside was in a precon. Don't forget.
But 12% is still a decent amount of decks that can play.
I mean-
I'm wondering if it's one of those cards they put in a lot of the precons that have those 3 colors.
Yeah, it's possible.
I mean, I will say that
Because that might make me understand why that's played in 12%
Sure,
of decks.
sure.
Because I play it in 0% of decks. I could see a deck I would play it in, sure.
yeah. I mean, with
I don't know. It's very hard to pull off.
I mean, it is hard to pull off. I don't know. I've actually never seen that card ever.
Well,
in
if
the
you have
wild.
if you have a deck where you can cheat your mana, right? Like,
Well, I mean,
like
for
your,
example, it has
like your
green.
locust lands, when everything taps for everything.
yeah,
You know,
Chromatic
Yeah,
Lantern
but
does that.
That's true. I guess this would work in Omo. Yeah.
Yeah, chromatic.
But then the
Lantern.
point is, I don't have that much stuff in my graveyard. So
Right. This is very specifically a graveyard, either a graveyard centric deck, or this is this is my counter to a board wipe deck, like
I
kind of card.
guess.
Because you're putting any number of
Isn't it
permanents,
sorcery?
right?
Yeah, it's sorcery.
Yeah, you
it's
do.
not
So it's
even
not.
instant.
It's not counter
Yeah,
to
it
a
is.
board
It's
wipe.
Yeah,
because
it is.
everything's in the
Everything's
graveyard, and then
graveyard.
next
Oh,
turn
I
it all
see.
comes
Great.
out.
I pass it, and I have all my creatures back out on the
Yeah,
field.
but they don't have haste. That's not. It's not
You
really.
don't
a
know what
counter.
kind of creatures I got. They could have haste. Leave them alone.
Yeah, he's playing red creatures in this also very hard to cast 3-color thing.
Yeah.
It's green, white, black.
And he's still got mana left to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't need to
No,
cast anything else.
I
if get
used to play
15
this,
creatures back.
and so many times I'd be like, I don't have the mana. Bright mana, I can't cast it.
Yeah.
It's so stupid.
Yeah, a lot of those ultimatum cards are like that.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason they're played though is because it feels really good when you do it.
It does. And the other one that I looked at, and I almost, I thought about putting on, but it was really good, was it destroyed everybody else's stuff and didn't destroy your stuff. And I was like, well, that's very good. That's seems always good. This is just good sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to be in a very creature-heavy deck and a deck that, like, Aristocrats deck, which puts stuff in the graveyard too, maybe to help it out, to make it more worthwhile.
Right.
In those 3 colors, I will say green, white, and black. First off, you have all the artifacts that do it too, but green very much can, with all the stupid dorks that it has, you can get a lot of different colors out of those. Obviously, if they're dead, it won't help you. But yeah,
Well, but the
I
other
mean,
thing is with
there's
those
less-
colors, there's black cards that for just 2 black pips and then colorless mana, you can do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are lots
What
of
is
other
it?
ways to do it.
Return
but-
from the Grave, I think it's called, or whatever.
I mean, there's a lot of them.
Grave
Yeah.
Purge or something.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
It's like X and
Living
whatever.
Death.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean,
So-
Living Death, you're doing it for everybody
Yeah,
else
I got
too,
to Zombie Apocalypse
Yep.
last time I played, right into a Cyclonic Rift afterwards.
That
so that
feels
was
bad.
super fun.
Yeah.
So next one on the list that we got here is Harmonize. This is the 2 green sorcery, draw 3 cards. Yeah, for 4 mana to draw 3 cards. It's,
In green,
in
it's not
green.
good.
Because it's in green, it's not good. I think
It
4 mana
depends
to
what
draw
you're
3
playing.
cards in some. Again, we're not talking about niche things. Because, for example, this is absolutely in Calamax. And this also should be in Storm if you got her from the Marvel set. This should absolutely be in there.
Oh yeah.
Because you can potentially draw like 12 or some ridiculous other amount of cards, 12 or 15 cards.
Multiple
off.
of 3.
Yeah. Any multiple of 3 that's ridiculous. You could potentially draw, which is what I do with Calamax. I've literally cast this before and I've gotten 15 cards off of it for 4 mana. So with that being said, we're going to take out those extreme instances on a regular basis. Paying 4 for 3 cards in green, there's a lot of other things that are the same or less CMC that get you a bunch of draws every turn.
Right.
So you could easily surpass this for the amount of mana this is just by enchantments alone in green. There's a bunch.
But most of
that do
those,
it.
it's for having big creatures or having multiple creatures. Or
True.
Things like that. There are green decks, believe it or not, that are not creatures.
Well, even what's his name?
It's not
There's-
very many.
No, but there are.
There's who is it? There's the one guy, Garuk something I think he's called. Where I think he's either 3 in a green or 4.
Garuk is on fire. Wait,
Garuk's
that's
Uprising.
No, not the enchantment. It's the creature. It's like Garuk's Beastmaster or something. I can't remember. He's like 3 in a green or 4 in a green. Whenever a creature with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield in your control, draw a card.
Yeah,
Like, and
it's
that's
the
for 3
Beastmaster.
or greater. I mean, even the mana dorks in green are 3 or greater sometimes. It
sometimes.
seems like So for something like that, like if this was an instant, I would be okay with it. But the fact that it's a sorcery,
Still wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
for sorcery to be 4 mana,
But it's straight draw. Because, okay, here's another situation. We're in a creature deck that is good. You just thought you were about to go all out and you were going to win the game, board wipe, right? You need to get cards back in your hand. You have 1 card in your hand. You got all this mana. Everything's in the graveyard.
I'm just telling you, I play green a lot, and this card sucks.
I mean, what percentage of decks play it?
9% of decks, and
Okay. I mean, that's probably
it's
9%
probably
is
more like this comes in precons. That's got to be what.
Oh,
this
no,
is.
it does, 100%.
Yeah,
That's in every
that's
green
the only
precon.
reason why
Yeah.
this is at 9% is because it's in precons.
I
'Cause
don't know.
this
I don't
card
think it's that
sucks.
bad.
Oh, it's
but the other
terrible.
green cards are all specific. Like this, the reason I think this is played a lot is because the other cards are all like when a creature comes in, when a creature of certain power comes in.
There are some of them though that let you sacrifice creatures to draw cards. or there are ones that draw cards based on the power of a creature. There are other ways to do it. This is just hands down bad, I think.
Nah.
I mean, I don't think
I think it's
the-
9% fine. I don't. If it was 10% or more,
Ugh.
I might start getting
that
less.
1% changes your
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
Just
So-
1%.
yep.
Okay.
The 1% usually does, don't it?
No.
I mean, I would say overall, I wouldn't say it's a great card. This is more for me. This needs to go in specific decks. Calamax, I know I talk about him a lot, but he copies instants and sorceries the first one I cast when he's tapped. So
This is real good in him.
Yeah, this is real great in him because for 4 mana I'm drawing 6 cards or 9 or 12 or however many times I decide to copy it, which is really good for me. So in those types of decks, I can see the value of it. But again, for CMC, draw 3 cards, sorcery speed. Most of the time, you're gonna find better cards.
And I hate this card even more now because of its flavor text is terrible.
And
And-
long.
Yeah, animals commune with their environment without the need for language. Theirs is a fundamental connection that surpasses flimsy words. Vivian Reed.
It doesn't suppress those flimsy words.
This card's terrible just because its flavor text sucks.
Now,
I'm
you can
out.
tell a lot about a card from its
Yeah,
flavor
I'm
text.
out. I'm out on this card just
Well,
for that.
I mean, I'm on the fence about it, but I don't play it, so I guess that might tell you something.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, this seems like you're not on the fence then. When you start playing this card, you let me know how it
I
feels.
put it in my hand, like I put it when I'm
Yeah,
pulling
but it's
cards
when you
out.
go to play it and you're like, I have 4 mana. Do I want to cast this? No, I want any other card in my deck.
No,
please.
I don't. I'm not saying I put it in my decks, but I always like pull it out when I'm building.
yeah,
That's
you're
what
It's usually one of the
construction.
first cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
I tried to be. I don't know. Anyway, but those are just some of the cards we think are overplayed. Obviously, if you have a different opinion or you have some you think we missed, Cast at Commander's Pod is where you can find us. Just shoot us an email and we'll talk about it. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Sloan, any pro tips from a non-pro?
Yeah. Freaking get excited. Magic officially announced Avatar: The Last Airbender is coming in November. And no, it's not a pro tip, but I don't know why we did not talk about this today as part of the podcast because I'm stoked. They officially announced, I think it was Friday, on my way home from work, my little X notification came up, and I saw it out of the corner of my eye. I looked down, and I was like, oh, Magic the Gathering made an announcement about Avatar or something. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, but did
Was that the
Did
right?
you not see the new announcement though?
So,
What, they cancel it?
No, it's just delayed.
yeah, that's fine. I
No,
don't
I'm
care
just
if it's
kidding,
delayed.
I was going to say, man, if it's delayed now and this wasn't supposed to be in
No,
November,
it's
it's not
just-
coming out in the near future.
It's not delayed.
So-
It's coming.
I'm very excited about this as
Zuko, right?
Zuko, baby.
Zuko's
Oh.
you're gonna have to play Chaos Warp because I guarantee he's red.
Well, I know that. So I actually had a couple of things that I wanted to guess on this since they announced it, so that way we can mark it on the tape and see if I'm right. So first off, for the pre-construction decks, I think it'd be cool if they brought back partners because every single one of the main characters has somebody that's like their person.
If they
right?
do that, they'll be less powerful.
They could be, but I'm more in it for the flavor of the cards and it making sense. So I think it would be Aang and Appa. I think it would be Katara and Sokka. I think it would be Zuko and Uncle Iroh, and I think it would be Fire Lord Ozai and Princess Azula.
I have one. I hope, and also a suggestion. I think there should be. Well, it's already made, so it's not a suggestion. It's just a hope. Then
They could hurry up and
I
look
think
at
they
it.
should do. How many colors are there in that?
There's 5 colors of magic.
Yeah, but how many in Avatar?
Well,
How
there's not
many
really colors,
elements?
but there's 4
How
elements.
many? 4 elements. I think
Water,
they should
earth,
make
air,
an
fire.
avatar that's the Avatar, the Last Airbender, one version of him that's 4 colors, or a version of him
Ooh,
that's
that'd be
white on
cool.
the front and flips to a 4
Oh,
color
a
on the
flip?
back. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be
Why
dope.
white on the front?
Because he's a monk.
He's a white. He's
Oh,
the air. Yeah.
There's other
air.
monks.
what?
Air would be blue.
No, not
I feel
in
like
Magic.
air
Magic
would
it's-
be white in
Air
that
is
game.
definitely white. Even in the board game they made for Avatar, it's more white than.
But that'll
it's
be
actually
interesting. How do
bluish.
they
Air
deal with that?
elemental's white. I know, blue.
Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna deal with that. That'd
No,
be interesting.
Appa's white and he's a flying bison.
Oh, because blue is water in
Yeah,
in
blue is
Avatar,
water
so you
in-
have to
in
have
Avatar.
water.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can't
And
make
your
green is
fish are
earth.
blue.
Yeah.
Green is earth.
I mean, if
red
they're
is
going to
fire,
assign a color to
blue-
each one, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying currently, water in magic is blue.
No, you're saying currently air and magic is blue.
Air too.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
both blue.
So I think it'd be cool if they did partner commanders. The other thing is I think it would be cool if they did 2 versions of Zuko, like the
Evil
banished prince.
and the
Yeah, like
good
the
one,
banished
yeah.
prince and the redeemed prince. I think that would be cool. I definitely think that depending on how deep they go into the Avatar lore, I do think it'd be cool if there's definitely room for vehicles because they made the tanks in the show.
Yep.
They made the underwater submarines in
They
the show.
even had the robot machine things, right? That you get into the like.
And the Legend of Korra in the second one.
Yeah. What do they call those?
Oh, I forgot what they call them.
They're like battle suits or something.
Yeah, and they also made airplanes in the Legend of Korra, flying.
I think there should be an Avatar god. Like one of the avatars, you know that because he.
Oh, the past
doesn't
lives.
doesn't she? Well, those and I think Korra goes and unlocks gods.
The
or something.
spirits. She unlocks spirits.
So maybe there's an Avatar god spirit or something.
So
I think Sloan thinks he's on a game show, like everything. Yeah, spirits. They unlock spirits. They unlock spirits.
I just
I
know
got
so
it.
much
I was
about
the
it.
first
You're
one
you're
to
the
know.
winner.
But with that being said, the other thing I think which is kind of cool is they also literally just announced a new Avatar series that they're working on that's coming out soon. I already got the first season announced. It's actually based after Korra, which was the second Avatar show. So this is after that now.
So when did they announce that?
They actually announced that like the day before they announced this, which was crazy. Like,
Well, so I
That's
don't
smart.
think that was. I think that was intentional.
That was
right,
not
that's
an
what I'm saying.
accident, yeah.
I
because
thought
they
it was
did a
really
similar
cool.
thing with Fallout, if you remember.
Oh yeah,
Oh, Fallout!
That's right.
I can't wait for the new season of that. It was so good.
So, but yeah, I'm very excited about this. I think it's gonna be really cool. I think it's awesome that they officially announced it. I'm excited to see what they do. I hope that if they do the pre-constructed decks, I hope that Aang is one of the commanders. I hope Firelord Ozai is one of them. I hope Zuko is. And then for the fourth one, I'm kind of between a bunch of people. I can kind of see it going a couple different ways, but I think those three should definitely be commanders.
So your pro tip today is that Johnny loves Avatar.
It's just, guys,
Some
if you
might
have
call him
not
a
watched
fanboy.
it, if you have not watched it, I highly recommend it, especially if you have a little bit younger kids. It's a great family show. It's well written, and Zuko, in my opinion, is one of the best written character arcs out of all TV.
As cartoons go, it's one of the better ones.
Yeah, it's a really well done animated show for sure. It's so good. It's so good. But yeah, so I think I'm really excited about that. It was announced. I know it wasn't on the sheet, and that's anything not a pro tip, but my tip is get excited because hopefully they do a good job and it's super fun.
Nice way to fit that in there. All right, Duncan, close us out, my man.
Well, before I do that, I do want to remind you about our contest we're running. We are running a contest to win the Marvel Secret Lair Foil Edition, all the commanders, all the legendary creatures from that. So you can win by emailing us, CastleCommandersPod. You must be subscribed to us on YouTube, but for every other place, or Patreon. But for every other place you are subscribed to us, you get an entry for each of those places.
Yep.
So put in the subject line, you put contest, and in the body of it, you put where you're subscribed and what your handle is so we can verify it. And that's all you have to do to get entered. And we will be doing the drawing March 28th.
Yep.
So just about a month away.
Yeah,
Tell your
so-
moms, tell your sisters, tell your brothers. We're subscribing everybody up
Yeah,
here.
remember that to get the prize for this to pop off, we need to get to 50 YouTube subscribers
and you
based-
have to be on YouTube, like you said,
or Patreon.
or Patreon. And Patreon will give you 3 entries instead of just 1.
And you don't have to
Yeah,
even
but
tell
you
us.
might as well also do YouTube since that's required for us to give away the prize.
And it's free.
Right,
Yeah.
because if we don't hit 50 and you didn't do it.
Right, yeah.
Who's
That'd
to
be
blame?
really silly. Yeah.
But even if we don't give away that, we are still going to give away the backpack with our logo and the crossbody bag. Those are both.
and I'm
still
sure we'll
going
have
to
a couple other things.
Yep.
Small things.
So we'll announce some stuff in a week or two. But that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to email us, cast@commanderspod.com, with any thoughts, feedback, ideas for maybe a show or a deck.
We do have the deck tech we still need to do for the one gentleman. that
Yeah,
emailed us.
he has to email me a new list because he tweaked it right after he emailed me,
Okay.
and he said he's winning a little more. He said one of his keys was he went from 28 lands to 31.
Oh, were they?
That's not enough lands, dude.
Yeah.
It's not
If
enough.
you're-
I think
if
it's
you're-
close.
If your
33.
deck's competitive enough, it's enough land.
He said
Jeff
he's doing
doesn't
well.
play competitive.
He's doing well. So 33 is that's my sweet spot. Jeff plays a bit more.
Yeah, like 36 to 38 lands.
Yeah, but I'd rather have counter spells than the lands. So
Ugh.
I mean, I play 29 in Prosperous.
anyway, you can also check out our YouTube, youtube.com/commanderspod. You can support us, patreon.com/commanderspod. Am I forgetting anything?
Yeah, their background might be a little bit different than what they're used to seeing.
Oh yeah. Tell us if you like the background we did, trying something new.
Yep.
If it works.
Yeah, well,
Otherwise, it's just great.
if it doesn't work, it's all on me because I'm the one who's doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blame Duncan.
But anyway, thanks for joining us, and don't forget, still free Jingataxius.
Kill Duncan first.
Commander's Pod, where the stories unfold, with heroes and villains new and old. Duncan, Jef, and Sloan guide the way in the world of EDH we play. So tune in, friends, let's fly and go. In the Commander's Pod, the love will show. From our decks to yours, we share the spark in this world of magic. We'll leave a